This is the three parts of man. So what we're looking at is we're looking at the spirit, the mind, some people say soul, and the body. The reason why this is important, and I want you guys to really pay attention to this order, because this is the order of power. A lot of people think that the order is the other way around. They think that their body has more power than their spirit does, but that's actually not true. And it doesn't even line up at all with the Bible. But that is how the devil wants you to think about yourself, and he wants you to put yourself low. So when people say things like, I am sick, you're literally you're identifying with your body instead of identifying with your spirit and your mind. And that's really, really important, because as we start to go through this, especially when it comes to dating, do not, or do your best not to identify with your body, because your body isn't just in a current state, but that does not mean that is what is really happening around you spiritually. And it also doesn't really mean where your mind is. But your mind can get locked up in your body because you're looking at it at that worldly perspective. At right now, I am in the grass, I'm in the dirt, I'm in the trees, I'm in the weeds, whatever metaphor you want to use. So you have to really kind of understand that. So what I'm kind of showing with this graph is the same thing. The body is represented by the green, the mind is represented by this yellowish color, yellowish orangish color, and then the spirit is really this bluish color. And the reason why it's like this is because your spirit interacts with other spiritual energy. So when God is talking to you, he's really more talking to your spirit. He's not really talking to your body. So the more you get yourself to the point where you are talking in the spirit, walking in the spirit, moving in the spirit, the more God can actually talk to you. As far as your mind is concerned, again, this is just your definitions of what's going on. So for instance, if you've ever known something like hypnosis and you wonder how hypnosis works, hypnosis just simply works by changing the understanding of the brain, by changing your definitions. So when somebody says, tells a person under hypnosis, they'll say something like, this pillow is 100 pounds. Well, now the brain believes that it's 100 pounds instead of about 5 pounds. And so when you try to lift it, your brain automatically believes that it's heavy because the definition in your brain has changed. And so that's all that is. That's all. The mind will actually correct that over time. For those that are afraid of hypnosis, it will correct it over time. But it's trying to understand the world around it. So it creates lots of definitions in order to go back and forth. And your body is basically just your car. That's your car that you use to go around the world. That's not really you. Remember, when you leave this world, when you leave this life, your body stays here. So, your spirit, goes up. Some people might say parts of your mind, but it's your spirit that's going to go to heaven. Your body is going to stay here. Okay, so we need to kind of really, I want you to be thinking more in the spirit mind place, not so much in the body place. Okay, so the next thing you kind of need to understand is that you need to understand that you have a signal radio. And so this is the part that, some people might say is new age, but believe it or not, there are a lot of biblical things that line up with this, but I'm not going to go into all of those right now. But basically what's happening is a signal is basically being sent into the world and is based off of the information from the mind. So whatever the mind is thinking, if the mind is identifying with the body, if the mind is identifying with the circumstance, it is basically going to send that signal out into the world. So we have women that are sending out signals, men that are sending out signals, everybody's sending out signals. And it doesn't care about your emotions. Your emotions are you. It does understand strong feeling, but it does not understand emotion. So you could be saying, well, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. And that is the literal thing that it is attracted to because it's very strong. That's very strong inside of the way that the mind works. So when you focus on things that you don't want instead of the things that you do want, you make the mistake of sending the wrong signals into the world. So you need to have more of a mindset of being positive and not negative. Positivity is really how you get more out of life and not being negative. And again, you see lots of these little types of things in the Bible, especially in Proverbs, where it's trying to tell people, don't be around angry people, try to do, good things, all that kind of stuff. because it's really getting your mind wrapped around this idea of being good, being nice, being wholesome. Because when you do that, you're going to be sending out good signals into the world. But when you focus on bad things, like there aren't any good people, why are all the men bad, or why are all the women bad, or why are all this race bad? God will never send me my person, blah, blah, blah. What's happening is you are literally sending out a signal that says to everything in the universe that God created, this is what I want. Okay, so it's like you're just sending out that signal to say, this is what I want. And what you see in Proverbs, the Bible says, for a man thinketh as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Okay, and then you also see death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So what I mean by this is, like I said, I'm not trying to get you to sit around and meditate and do all this crap that, new age people do. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. What I'm trying to get you to do is be positive. Okay, so if the Bible says death and life are in the power of the tongue, then speak life. But in order to speak life, you have to think life, because your mouth is going to speak whatever your brain believes. So think life, think positive, think good, and that is going to help you to attract the person that you're looking for. So that's pretty much it on a lot of this new age stuff. So now we're going to get more into, some more core stuff. Okay, so this is one of the things that we talk about in CSC a lot. And this is one of the things that I'm actually surprised a lot of people don't really get, especially with the women. Again, I'm not trying to beat up on the women. I'm just trying to make sure that, we're paying attention. So we have our guy over here and he's saying, I need a car. And then we have these three things over here. And you guys might think this is just as stupid as you can possibly say, because he is saying, is this a car? Is this motorcycle a car? Is this truck a car? And when you look at it, you're like, man, that's just as goofy. But here's the whole thing. You know the definitions of each one of these things. So when I say, is this a car? Everybody says, hell, no way that's a car. That's a doggone motorcycle. And when I say, okay, what is this? And you always say, okay, well, that's a truck. That's not a car. But see, people, when they date, this is exactly what they do. They go out and then they say, I'm looking for a good person. And they don't know the difference between a good person and a bad one. They say, I'm looking for a man, a strong man, but they don't know the difference between a good one and a bad one. They say, I'm looking for a really great woman, but there's men out there that don't know the difference between a good one and a bad one. If you don't know what you want, you can't even go anywhere. Because like I say, here's the whole thing. If you are in a room of 50 people of the opposite sex, you should be able to look around and just by their interactions, just by maybe talking to them, you should start to know this is the type of person I'm looking for, or this is not the type of person I'm looking for. Just a small conversation, a little bit of interaction, and just seeing them a little bit, that should start to, do some bells and whistles. And if you don't know that, then what you're doing is you're shooting at random. You're sending out arrows into the air, hoping you're going to hit a target. And this is one of the main reasons why, for a lot of guys, they really need to kind of know, because a lot of guys might focus just on a woman being attractive, but is she attractive? Is she nice? Is she lined up with what you want for the future? And then for a lot of women, I just really believe that you all should do more to get yourself where you're trying to go in the selection process. Don't just, allow any man to select you, because again, then you're just allowing the arrows to come at random instead of dodging certain ones and then letting others come in. Okay, so you need to understand the obstacles. This is another major thing. You need to understand that you have obstacles. Okay, it might not always be easy for you to understand or be able to find somebody because of the circumstances. So when we have our lady over here and she's like, where are the good men? Well, again, you can Google this if you want to and just go deeper, or we can talk about it when we get into the conversation. But about 10 to 20% of men are just easy to find. They're right there in your face. They're a lot more aggressive. They're always coming up to talk to you. But generally, these guys, they know who they are. They know what they're doing. And not all of them, some of them are really great guys, but a lot of them aren't. And so what ends up happening is, he ends up going to talk to this lady. Then she gets mad because she's not, he's not really what she wants. And so then she gets pissed off, and then she'll start to say, well, there's no good guys out there. There's no good guys out there. But here's the whole thing. There's like 60% more over here that are worth something. But there might be an obstacle in the way. And I find that a lot of people don't like fighting obstacles. A lot of people don't like dealing with a situation that is a little bit difficult, which I find sad because honestly, anything worth getting is worth getting. I mean, there's people out here that went to college. There's people that went to technical school. When you actually wanted a driver's license, to drive a car, I mean, you had to go get that driver's license. You had to study for that driver's license. You had to study to finish high school. Why do you think it's easy? Why does everybody think it's easy all the time? It's funny, people will marry somebody, okay, after knowing very little about them, doing very little research, and the person you marry can hurt you more than anybody else and anything else in the world. That one choice is more important than anything else. Yet we don't study for it, we don't research for it, and we just kind of accept anything that comes to us. So sometimes you need to understand that you have obstacles to try to, that are in your way to get, from your people. And some of those things can be the location. Like I'm always surprised, sometimes people will live in an area where there's just not a lot of men or not a lot of women. And then they'll just say, well, I just like living here. Okay, well, you're kind of doing that to yourself. I mean, you have to think about things like that, that might not necessarily be your best place. Sometimes you're dealing with people that might be introverted, they might be shy, they might not have confidence, they might be busy. A lot of people are busy. I know, honestly, that's one of my issues. I can be very, very busy. And then there might be a financial burden. Maybe they're trying to get over something, maybe they're trying to pay out a bill, whatever it is. Okay, understanding value. This one hurts a lot of people. So this is where that emotion comes in. Men and women do not want the same things, even though men and women are very similar. Okay, men and women are more similar than what you think. I'm always trying to tell people that because, men are like, women are so weird and they do silly stuff. And then women are like, oh, these men are just crazy. But in reality, that's not true. Men and women are almost the same in the way that they go through life. But the difference is what they want at their core. That is the difference. And that is a core element that everybody needs to pay attention to. So at that core, men and women do not want the same things. And this is very important because what happens is a lot of times men will approach a woman with the energy that he wants for himself. He's looking for that in himself. So he's approaching her with that energy. Same thing for a lot of women. They're approaching men with the energy of what they want. Like we talk about it a lot of times in a group where there are women out there that will say, to men, hey, I make six figures. Hey, I have XYZ, PhD or doctorate or master's or whatever. Well, most men don't really care that much about stuff like that. So you're approaching, when a woman does that, she's approaching a man with the values that she wants him to have, the values she wants him to come to the table with. But that's not the values that he cares about. And so as soon as a woman does that, the man is kind of looking at her like, man, get up out of here. Because at that point, she's not really walking in her feminine, she's walking in her masculine. And men can do the same thing. They can be coming to a woman with a more relaxed, chill vibe. And then the woman is, and then he's, looking at her. And then again, this doesn't translate. So the best way to understand this is just the concept of, do you have a newborn baby in your hands? And do you give them pizza or do you give them milk? I mean, it's very simple. Okay, we know that even though you might like pizza, Or let's say seafood, because I know a lot of folks like seafood. You might like seafood, but you don't give baby seafood. You give babies milk because that is what the baby wants. You cannot give a baby what you want the baby to have and think that that's going to make the baby healthy. You have to give the baby what the baby wants. And you have to come out of your own selfishness, okay, and self-centeredness to see that. Okay, so men, for the most part, desire attractiveness. And again, ladies, don't overthink this, because nobody's saying you got to be a size 4 and all this other kind of craziness. All you have to do is be attractive to the man. And men like lots of different types of looks, okay? And most women are actually attractive. We talked about that in another meeting. I'm not going to go in that today because, for sake of time. Men desire kindness. Okay, what is kindness? You're just a nice person. And not just a nice person to him, you're a nice person to everybody. So if you're sitting around talking about, in college, there was this guy that liked me, and I just, laughed at him in front of the whole school, and you talk like that. When you're talking like that, you're not showing kindness. And that is not what, men want. They want a woman who has genuine kindness to everybody she meets. Not to say you got to be Mother Teresa, but just genuine kindness. And men want support. They want support in what they're trying to do, in whatever projects they're trying to, make happen, whatever dreams, blah, 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 they want support. What women are looking for is protection. Most guys naturally do this. This is not a big issue. This is just, you don't let no woman, no man step to your woman or your kids. Provision, this is where most guys get frustrated. Again, women aren't looking for you to be a multimillionaire. They're just looking for you to have your money in order. So if you are tight every single month and you pay all your bills, and then you got literally $5 left in your pocket, then you might need to get a second job, or might need to go back to school, because women don't like it when your money's that tight. But if you can live decently and have a little bit extra to maybe go on a trip like the Costa Rica trip, or something like that, then that's generally speaking what women are looking for. It's not multi-millions of dollars. And if you're worried about the women who want you to be that 6-figure and up guy, don't necessarily worry too much about them, because maybe that's just not your skilo. But there are plenty of women out there that'll be okay with you if you just got a decent amount of money and you just not wasteful with your money. Now, remember, again, there's going to be different tiers of women who want different things. Okay, so this is the next thing. Okay, this is, you have to understand position. And what we mean by position is you have to place yourself in an environment or in a situation where you can win. Okay. The easiest way to say this and talk about this is that Amazon does not deliver men and women. Okay. Slavery's over. So you're not going to get your man or woman through Amazon, through, whatever your favorite, app is. It's not going to work that way. So you're going to have to position yourself. So in this scenario, like with the little graphic, those people that are in this little bubble here are the easiest for Cupid to hit. Then, but the further they go out, the more difficult. So when you come into a room, you can position yourself at the edge of the room, or you can position yourself in the middle of the action. One of the things that I encourage a lot of men to do, especially, is to volunteer. If you don't want to volunteer for CSC, you can volunteer at your church. You can be an usher, or you can be anything, really, because there's a lot of women that don't even think men go to church. But there's lots of men in church. But a lot of times the men might come in, they sit down, they watch the pastor, and then they go home. And when men do that, they're not positioning themselves to actually talk to women. They're just getting the message and then they're going home. And sometimes that's what you need. That's what God wants for you. But if you're feeling like, okay, my wife might be at this church, then she needs to see you. Okay. And it's the same thing with CSC. If you want to volunteer at CSC, that's going to be much better than always staying in the background, not being seen. And women, it's the same exact thing. The more you're out front, the more men see you, and the more interaction you have with them is going to basically put you in a better situation. But even if that's not the heavy duty position that you want to be in, you can do things like drop the handkerchief, quote unquote, by basically being around a man. Most men love to help, especially masculine men, they love to help. So you could, be somewhere and say, hey, can you help me move these bags to my car? Can you help me do XYZ? Ask them the time, even if you got the time on your phone, ask them directions, blah, blah, blah. Because at that point, you're putting yourself in a position where the person can see you and you can actually interact. It does not mean that you have to ask the man for his phone number or that you have to push the conversation. You can just ask him a question and see what he's going to do. If he doesn't do anything, hey, that's on him. Okay, so here's the takeaways. This is a real quick one today, but here's the takeaways and tips. Okay, so here's the first one. We really need to kind of get this, and this took me a long time to get myself to really understand this, because I thought, as a Christian, I don't have to play this dating game, but I found that doesn't work. Everybody's playing it, or you're just opting out. You're either literally in the game or you're riding the bench. But no matter what the situation is, you're going to be playing the game. Now, women feel the game a lot more so than men, because men, for the most part, genuinely initiate, or they at least keep things going. So a man can walk back and forth through the grocery store and a woman never say anything to him, where if a woman is decently attractive, then when she walks through the grocery store, men will probably hit on her. So women kind of understand being in the dating game a little bit a little bit more so than men. But whoever learns the rules is going to be to their advantage. If you try to, say, well, I don't want to play it, I want to do it my way, I'm just letting you know, it's like hitting your hand against a brick wall. You are literally hitting your hands and your head against a brick wall, because it's not going to change. And that's that part that hurts, because we all have this desire for people to love us as we are. And people will love you as you are, but it's still going to come down to these things. And if you don't have these things as a part of who you are, it's going to hurt you. I'm just letting you know, it's going to hurt you. And it's not going to be much you can do about that. So the next thing is take the time to know what you want and don't talk negative about your situation. Remember, there is blessings, blessings, blessings. Speak blessings over your life. Speak blessings over other people's lives, and understand what you want. Do you want to get married? Do you looking for a relationship? Do you want children? Do you want the woman to want to travel? Does the man need to travel? Do you want to live in the suburbs? Do you want to live in the city? All these things. See, people don't even think about these things. These are important things. Do you like pets? Like, I'm a pet person. If I run into a woman that's like, well, I don't do pets, and it's like, okay, peace. Nice knowing you. I mean, I'm praying for you that you find your person. And it's nothing against her. I just like pets. So that's me. Now, if she's like, well, I like pets, but I want snakes and horses and all this other kind of stuff. Now, we live on a farm, we might be able to do a horse, but I ain't doing no snakes. Okay, so that's on her. Again, I'll be like, yeah, I like pets, but deuces on the snakes. I'm not gonna deal with that. So be realistic in your understanding of self and where you're looking to meet people, because people are everywhere. But at the same time, you got to kind of get in an environment where people are going to be. And I know for my introverts, it can be a little bit more difficult. And that's why if you are introverted, one of the things that I'll definitely encourage you to do is to be on camera. Because while I do know that people are here for the message, I also know people are in the DMs talking to each other, and I don't have a problem with that as long as they are respectful. But if a person can't see you, why in the world would they talk to you? So even if you're going to be in your house and you know you're more introverted, there are things that you can do to help you in this progress. And if you're saying, well, I'm in my house, but I don't really want to be on video, I don't feel comfortable with being on a video, at least put up a really nice picture. So people, again, get to see you. Also, don't be fooled by what a person says. You need to know who they are. And honestly, a lot of women might think I'm just really talking to women, but there's a lot of men that have been fooled by women, because the women will say, well, I want this and I want this and blah, blah, blah. But then when you really get around the woman, she doesn't really do what she says.
Frozen.
Huh? Okay, so somebody's on. Y'all want to ask a question?
Deshaun, you think he's gone for good?
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep it moving. So, so just make sure that you are really trying to know who people are. You need to watch them, not just listen to them, but watch them, watch what they do. Okay. You need to get outside of your comfort zone sometimes. That's really important. And then, like I said before, you need to get in leadership positions, if at all possible, where you can be seen. And again, I'm going to make that nod more so for men than women. However, it does work for both sides. But women are attracted to leadership. They're attracted to men who take charge. And so you will do yourself a favor when you get out front and you're okay with, being seen. So that's pretty much it. It was a pretty small presentation today.